followers, and he has a blog called Financial-Deconstruction, and he will talk about all things related to the APS school board, and he's going to give us an update on their just their recent elections. They've got some runoffs. He's also very good at looking into their accounting. He's a forensic accountant, so he makes me look, you know, not very smart. He's way smarter than me, and he's just doing an amazing job as a citizen who is involved following school. So thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I think that, well, none of you are Atlanta City voters probably. It's important to you. I think at a meeting 2 coffees ago, Jack Kingston said that Atlanta is the brand name for Georgia.
Yes.
What happens in Atlanta public schools is important to everybody in Georgia. And what I want to do is be very, very positive, because with this election that we just had last week, it's not done yet, but so far the results have been excellent. All of the issues that you've been talking about so far, the overwhelming approval and votes for winning candidates speak to every one of these. I'll talk about that just briefly. Probably the most significant thing that happened in the election was that Brenda Muhammad, who was an incumbent, lost. That means that there's going to be 5 brand new faces on the board. That out of a 9-member board, there is a new majority of new people coming to the board. Now, there's still some issues about who those 5 people may be, but it's very, very significant that the transition away from the fraud and deceit and cheating in the past is now essentially almost. In terms of other candidates, Nancy Meister, who's in the Buckhead, the District 4 area, she won resoundingly. Everybody was thinking that this was going to be an anti-incumbent race. In fact, 3 of the 4 incumbents did win. Nancy Meister won simply because she ran on her record, which was anti-deficit spending, better budgeting processes, and lower class sizes. Those 3 things resounded significantly with voters. And by the way, I'm working with Nancy and a couple of other board members to develop a better and more enhanced budget policy that, as we begin to do that, I'll pass that along to you, because I think that, it's something that will greatly improve the disclosures on an ongoing basis. Courtney English won. He's a reasonably good supporter of charter schools, let's put it this way. At least he doesn't vote against them. He has had a number of occasions on the board in which he has actually turned the conversation that resulted in getting the expansion of Drew Charter approved last year. But most importantly, Courtney is a strong advocate of getting more authority, responsibility, and accountability into the schoolhouse. Getting the principals, letting the principals make the decisions about, you know, what the needs of their students are. If you begin to kind of think through what that means, that is halfway to the charter. Okay? I mean, if you think about that in terms of how governance is done, you want it at the local school versus at the administration downtown. I'll quickly mention the 2 candidates that ran opposed. Matt Westmoreland. The reason I mentioned Matt is he's a 26-year-old kid. As he always says on the campaign trail, he looks like he's 12. But I want you all to follow this kid closely. This is an incredibly impressive individual, and as long as he can get through the next 4 years, and he is a deep thinker about issues, he's really smart, and I think this kid potentially could be national. Seriously, you watch it. The other one was Byron Amos, again an incumbent, ran unopposed. So we're halfway there. There are still 4 runoff races that have to occur. Probably the most important one of those is an at-large seat. Chairman Reuben McDaniels is facing Cynthia Briscoe Brown. Reuben has been an issue, a divisive issue in the school system for the past 4 years. While Reuben probably is associated more closely with some of the issues that would energize this group, and Cynthia Briscoe Brown is a little bit of an ideologue. At the same time, if Reuben wins, he will become chairman, and he will do exactly the same thing he did the last time, and that is pack the committees, the audit committee, the budget committee, the ethics committee, with his buddies. So if you have to strategically think about this one, even though you may get somebody that may not necessarily agree with their position on some of the issues, and by the way, Cynthia is moderating reviews. We've had a lot of discussions on that. But her victory will result in a new chairman that will result in a much better governance set of committees at the board level. So, you know, that one's critical. Jason Esteves, again, an at-large seat. He is a young attorney, incredibly well politically connected. He's backed by the mayor, but Jason is one of the nicest guys. He's a really smart guy. So I think he's got a pretty strong chance. He's going against Lori James. Lori's got some problems. Put it that way. She is an ideologue. She also was embroiled in the middle of the problems that occurred at APS with special needs at the point in time when they had an audit. She's tried to whitewash that from her background, but that's going to come up pretty strong. Mary Palmer will be facing off against Stephen Lee. Stephen Lee is the mayor's candidate. He's a fraud. I don't know how else to put it. Please don't quote me on that.
That will not be on YouTube.
But he's got credentials from a diploma mill. He's an unknown quantity. He will be the mayor's person on board, and he will go with whatever the mayor tells him versus having an independent mind. Mary Palmer, while she is more liberal, has worked with large organizations in a consulting role, Coca-Cola, IBM, so on. She knows how large organizations work. She is becoming more moderate in terms of some reviews, and she probably will have a good shot at it. Last one will be Ishay Collins. Ishay is running against Del Bird. Ishay is one of the candidates that's been speared with this whole Teach for America issue that's shown up in the race. But Ishay, I think, has a pretty good chance to run against Del Bird. Del was a school teacher for about 25 years, left the profession, and then now is citing her desire to see outcomes for students, even though she's left the profession for quite a few years. Ishay is currently running an early education program down at Georgia State. So if you are interested in the race and have an extra few dollars, the one person I would suggest that you would invest it in is Ishay Collins. That's an important place that she's going to need the financial help. The other thing I said, that this election really there was a lot of good news. While everybody was talking about it being anti-incumbency, what I looked at was the 12 candidates that ran for district races and analyzed what their views were and made an assessment. If they had made a strong statement about a specific issue, how did that resound with voters? I'll just give you a couple of numbers. I always go back to the numbers.
Thank you.
But this is real. I think you're going to find this very interesting. 88% of the voters voted for ethical and open candidates. The two candidates that had ethical issues got trounced. 93% of the voters voted for extending additional authority, responsibility, and accountability into the schoolhouse. That's a resounding. 5 years ago, nobody was thinking about this. That became a central core issue of this campaign, and every single one of those candidates that got those 93% of the votes is now on record, and I have it on tape to that effect. 87% of the candidates made strong statements in terms of fiscal responsibility. 77% of voters went for candidates that are closely tied to their communities, have served in leadership positions within those communities. Voters want people who are close and listening to them. If you ask why Brenda Muhammad lost, that's the specific issue. She had become disconnected from the community. The other thing is 70% of the voters voted against ideological candidates, people who have adopted national referendums as part of their campaign got trounced. So that, again, while we still have some ideological candidates in the race, it's not nearly as bad as it was. And this is probably the most important of all of the issues. And again, I have this on tape. 100% of the votes cast for winning candidates or candidates that are in runoffs in those 6 districts voted to extend additional responsibility and authority, or I'm sorry, voted to reduce the downtown bureaucracy. They voted to prioritize funding away from bureaucracy and into the schoolhouse. This is the 65% issue that you and Ed have raised. This is consistently, and just as again another number, 44 cents out of every dollar are spent on bureaucracy versus the 65% that should be spent. Again, voters were resounding in terms of their approval or their disapproval of downtown spending.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Bob? Any questions? Well, I hope that you will, I want to hear some suggestions for better disclosure on budgeting techniques, because that's my big thing. And so thank you so much. I
All right,
appreciate you doing
thank you
this.
very much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.